Hello, this is Steve Taylor again from Kingdom Towers Transitional Housing in Lubbock, Texas, in our reentry video series. The first episode that we did was Success Begins Behind Bars, and I talked about some things that you can do before you got out that would help your transition be a little bit smoother and a little bit easier. And today we're going to start with your fresh start in a free world. This is the second video of the three-part series. It's time now. Then we've gotten out. It's time to start putting the goals and all of our action plans into play. So some of the things that I talked about in the first video, it's time to start taking care of those. The things that you weren't able to handle while you were still incarcerated, and that could be some court costs and child support and any outstanding debts, especially with the IRS that you may have. If you weren't able to set that up with them beforehand, it's time to do that now. And there's some great reasons why, and one of them revolves around your employment. So don't wait for these problems to escalate. Take care of them now, and let's get at the forefront of it, because things do not go away. My biggest suggestion to you at this point, you've been out for a few days or a week, is to take things slow. Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast, my friend. You can go along, and if you get in too big of a hurry, you're not going to make good, wise decisions. You're going to get to a point to where you'll rush through things and you'll make mistakes. And then you get to go back and you get to redo it all over again. That's the principle behind slow is smooth and smooth is fast, because you're doing them at a slow pace and you're thinking through and making the absolute best choice you can. Avoid trying to make up for lost time. That is never going to work. I have seen guys try to do that. They spend more time in their past than they do in their present and their future. I will say this, that Jesus always wanted to be in your past, but you wouldn't allow him. And he wants to be in your present. But if you're so busy worrying about the things of the past, he cannot be in your present, because you're allowing the enemy to bring the things of the past and put them in the present. And if you do that, your future is going to look the same as your past. So I just encourage you, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding again, but acknowledge him in all his ways and let him direct your paths. That will make things slow, that will make things smooth, and it will be the way that God intended them for your progress to be. Start fresh, like I said, with a clean slate. That's what Paul had to do as well. Paul, and all of his past, he got to a point where his life was turned around on the road to Damascus by Jesus. And he stated later in his letter to the Philippians, and it's in Philippians 3:13 and 14, that I do not count myself to have apprehended, but the one thing I do is forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which lay ahead. I press toward the goal of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. So, my friends, I think using Paul is a great example of how to move forward. Do not look back. Do not let the things of the past dictate who you are now or what you're doing. Start fresh, start with a clean slate, and move forward. One of the first people that you're going to come in contact with when you're released is your parole officer. I would highly suggest that you make a good first impression on your parole officer. Your parole officer wants you to succeed just as much as you do. They see plenty of failures. They probably see more failures than they do successes. So it's extremely refreshing to them to have someone come out and truly want to move forward in their life. You have requirements. You signed a parole certificate to come out, and you agreed to certain things on that parole certificate. It was really a contract to release you from incarceration and allow you to come back out in the free world with stipulations, mind you, but come back into the free world and start and get your life started all over again. Do not be that person that complains about the monitor that they may have you on. Do not be that person that complains about all the parole visits that they have to attend, or all the home visits where your parole officer comes out to your residence and visits, or all the classes that you're required to attend. Please do not be that person, because you have to remember you agreed to those things before they ever released you. Something to really keep in mind is that parole officer has the power of incarceration for you or the power of freedom for you. So I believe it is very, very wise to get along with your parole officer. Those parole officers have all kinds of resources to help you. Allow them to help you. They have your best interest at heart. They can tell you about second chance employers and places that you can go that will really help you, and other resources with maybe even housing if you need it, or clothing, or other places such as that. So utilize what they have to offer and let them help you, and get along with your parole officer as well as you can, because the more that you get along with them, the easier that you get along with them, the more likely down the road they will start lessening some of the requirements that you have. And that's what you're shooting for. Reintegration with family, restoration with family. I believe that we need to do this carefully and wisely. The Word of God says in James 1:5 that if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given him. So I would suggest that you pray how to come back into your family and do it wisely. Because you have to remember, when you were incarcerated, you incarcerated them with you as well. They had to go visit you, had to drive, in some cases, long distances to come and visit, and you had to drag your children in there if you had children. So you imprisoned them in a sense when you were imprisoned yourself. And the other part of that is, for whatever amount of time you were in prison, you were a liability to them. They were happy to put money on your books for commissary, putting money on your books so you could have these tablets that you're using now, and watching the movies and listen to the music and things you had to pay for. Someone had to pay for that, and it was your family. So be respectful of that coming back. When you first go home, and you have to realize that the family unit and their routines are not probably what they were when you left. They have learned to get along without you. They have routines. They have things that they do day in and day out to make things work for themselves since you weren't there. So I would suggest that you don't come in and toss those routines upside down for your benefit. I would suggest that you come back into the family unit, see where you fit in, how you can help, and turn yourself into an asset instead of that liability. Please don't be disruptive. See how you can help and take some of the burden off the people that have been carrying all that weight while you were incarcerated. Do it without controlling. Do it with a spirit of humility and a spirit of humbleness. One of the first things that you're going to focus on when you come out, of course, after your parole visits and you're getting acquainted with your family and restoration is taking place, is your employment. Employment is such a vital part of your successful reentry. I would suggest that you apply for multiple jobs at one time. Don't just apply for one job and then wait for a week or two to see if you get that job before you apply to another, because you may not get the first job and you've wasted 2 weeks, and then you go to the second application. I would get out and I would go and I would apply to multiple jobs and see who may be willing to hire you. And for all you know, you may get 2 or 3 acceptances at one time, and you get to decide who you want to be employed by and which job you can take. And I would encourage you also, again, concerning your parole officer, ask your parole officer about second chance employers. They can help you immensely, because you won't be going to employers that may not be willing to hire ex-felons. And speaking of jobs, I want to touch on this before we move on, is that avoid jobs where you get paid under the table. a lot of people will take jobs where they get paid under the table because they do not want the child support people to know, and they don't want the IRS people to know that they're working. So it's not honorable, it's not godly. We need to come forward with this. God is not going to honor things if they're done in a deceitful manner. Come forward, and even if they want to pay you with 1099s at the end of the year, I really steer all of my people at Kingdom Towers away from that because of the responsibility of you paying all of your taxes at the end of the year. You can figure about at least a minimum of 30% of your income is paid in taxes. I myself do not think it would be easy for me to keep up with that money for a whole year and be able to pay it to Uncle Sam in a lump sum at the end of the year. And the other part of that too is if you are employed by an employer that takes his taxes out weekly, every time that you get a recordable paycheck, your parole officer is going to like that a lot better, for one. And number two, when you do it like that, your employer is responsible to pay half of your Social Security. So it winds up being cheaper for you at the end of the year than it would be if you're responsible for all your taxes. So there's a monetary benefit by you taking those jobs above board, and that so you're not trying to hide anything. That way, if you have IRS problems, you're going to start addressing that. And if you have child support problems, you can start addressing that as well, because that's one of the main reasons that guys want to get paid under the table. They're trying to dodge their child support and they're trying to dodge the IRS. Please do not be that person. Surround yourself with like-minded believers who encourage you to help attain your goals. You're checking off these boxes after you when you first got out. You've set those attainable goals. Go through and start checking those boxes off, achieving those things that you want to achieve. And I would suggest as well, even in your family home, lead by example. Set up Bible studies in your home. Take your family to church. If you are truly trying to walk a godly life, you need to step into that place of being the spiritual leader of your home. Build consistency and trust in all your activities and with everyone that you know and that you come in contact with. So these are some of the things that you need to really be looking at your first few weeks coming out of prison. Check off the boxes for your goals, get in a good relationship with your parole officer, and start your new life in this free world. So this concludes the second video of our three-part series. Our next series will be the pitfalls to avoid, and that will be part 3. Have a blessed day.